Welcome to Cornell Cooperative Extension and our monthly Consumer Issues program. I'm Carol Fisher, Consumer Educator here at Cornell Cooperative Extension. In recent years, transactions on the internet have really exploded. We're not only communicating via internet, but we're paying bills, we're getting loans, we are purchasing all of our gifts and our goods on the internet. And so we really have to learn how to protect ourselves from any problems taking place. In our email, we often see messages that are phishing for personal information. They may even look like they're coming from our bank or stores or businesses that we actually do business with. However, by responding to some of these emails, we often put our personal information and maybe even our computers at risk. And so that's another area that we have to be careful about now. When we make purchases at our local business, when we do our shopping, we can, if we're not happy with them, we can take our purchases back. Maybe we can exchange them if there's a problem. But what do you do if you're purchasing something online and the item doesn't meet your approval, or it doesn't arrive, or isn't of the quality that you have come to expect? So today we have with us Mike Danaher, New York State Assistant Attorney General, who will explore these issues with us, how we can protect ourselves online, on the internet, and what to do if something goes wrong with online transactions. Mike, welcome.
Good morning, Carol. Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here at Cornell Cooperative Extension. And again, Carol mentioned that internet transactions have exploded. There are all types of transactions. I was just hearing recently in the most recent holiday season that Black Friday is starting to lose some of its luster for the simple reason that a lot of people are now making their purchases online rather than going to brick and mortar stores. So the internet is a wonderful thing. It takes us to wonderful places. It expands our knowledge, allows us to get information with just clicks of a button. We can even go to college online now and get degrees online. A lot of people are starting to do all of their shopping online. Those of you who have tuned in to us frequently know about my aversion to going shopping. And I've utilized the internet many times to buy things. I remember one story where I did, I don't know what possessed me, but I actually did a Black Friday deal where we were out at some ungodly hour of the morning to go to the stores, and I went to an electronics place to get this one thing that I wanted to get. I ended up waiting in line. I found it, and it was really the only thing I wanted, so I didn't have to browse or anything. I waited in line for an hour and a half to check out of this store and got the item that I wanted, which was fine. I went home and I checked my emails, and I actually had an email from that electronics outfit that was offering me the same deals that were being offered in the store and with 1 or 2 day delivery. So I could have gotten the exact same item from my living room for the same price that I spent an hour and a half in the store getting, and had it delivered to my front door. So people are seeing these sorts of things and taking advantage of these types of things. And it truly is a wonderful thing. We can do all of our shopping online. However, we really have to be careful, as Carol mentioned, about using the internet. We've almost gotten to the point where we've become too comfortable with the use of the internet, thinking that it is the exact same thing as walking into a store and buying it. Well, the idea that you're spending money and receiving the product is all the same. but you have to be very careful about the transaction itself and who you're dealing with. We've gotten to the point where we have become so comfortable that we've dropped our guard, and we've started to give out personal information to potentially people that we don't know and, in fact, are not who they portray themselves to be. We're sending money to people that we don't know who they are. So although the internet is a great thing, we still have to be good consumers, as we frequently advocate in my office, the New York State Attorney General's office, as well as our consumer sessions here at Cornell Cooperative Extension. So we really need to be careful when we go about buying things online. But buying things online is just one thing that we have to keep aware of. But it's just the overall use of the internet we have to be very careful. So we go online, we can avoid the long lines, we can avoid the time it takes to drive to the store. Sometimes we may get better prices, but we do have to do a better job of protecting our privacy. One thing that when you are on the internet and you're going to make a purchase, or in any way that you're going to give up any personal information, because when we buy things, we do have to give up personal information, such as our name, our address, our credit card number, all the things that are associated with giving money. We may, I would not recommend this, but there are some people who may give out bank account information to a merchant so that money can be withdrawn directly from the account rather than have use of a credit card. I would much rather see people use credit cards when they're going on and purchasing things online. But when we do that, and we have to give out any personal information, then we need to make sure that we're at a secure website. And the best way to determine whether or not you're at a secure website before you're giving out personal information is before you see the www dot whatever come up online. You want to see the letters before that is typically HTTP. When you're just on the internet searching and looking up things and all that stuff, you typically are going to see HTTP : / and then it will continue on with what you've typed in, www.libraryofcongress.org or whatever they use. But if you are going to be giving out personal identification information, make sure that the page that you are on, up in the URL line, before where you've typed in www dot, that it's HTTPS. Make sure that you have the S there for a secure site. That gives you some protection, that there's some security. Otherwise, you give out what I refer to as a cyber sneeze. Whereas if you put out personal information on a site that is not secure or encrypted, you just go achoo with all of your personal information and spray it throughout the internet, and those people who are lurking out there, it might be a thing called sniffing, it might be an entity that's just sitting there sniffing for information, can pick up your unencrypted, unsecured personal information, and then all of a sudden that they have it. So the first thing is you want to make sure that you are at a secure site. Now, some web browsers that you're on may have a lock down in the corner, and if the lock is broken, it's not a secure site, but if the lock is locked, it's a secure site. But again, you can probably also match that up with the HTTPS up on the URL line. We all have to understand that identity theft is the #1 financial fraud that is occurring now. I can't believe that it isn't going to also be the largest financial fraud for many, many years to come. So we have to do a really good job in protecting our personal identification information. Another crucial thing that we need to know when we're dealing with purchasing things online is that we want to know who we're dealing with. As Carol mentioned, you could be on a website or you could be responding to an email that you think is coming from a reputable retailer, when in fact it is not a reputable retailer. So it's always good to know who you're dealing with. And if you are buying things, buy things from good, legitimate retailers. One way you can check is through the Better Business Bureau and their reliability reports. You can access those at bbb.org as you're on the internet. But do remember, and there are other sites out there, Yelp and other things that can give you some reviews on the merchant that you're dealing with, but be very, very careful about that, because our office recently announced, within the last year or so, that we had discovered that there were brokers out there that were fudging these reliability reports, and they were just paying people a certain amount per good report that they could give against a particular business. So you have to have a little critical eye when you're looking at some of these rankings or ratings that people give. They could be fabricated ratings. So I know that the rating agencies or rating websites are trying to do a better job of evaluating the kind of reviews that come in and try to nab ones that are fraudulent and try to kick those out. And they have different algorithms in their system to try and decipher where it is. For example, somebody is saying that this restaurant is the best restaurant in the world. They've been there, great service, great food, and you find out that the restaurant is in Ithaca, but the rating person is in San Diego. So that could be something that, maybe it was somebody from San Diego that came to Ithaca to do it, but you have to be really careful about these sorts of things. And there have been instances where people are being paid in maybe third world countries to just type in reports of other things to think of, that there may be a review that's very similar in wording and language and spelling of other reviews for this restaurant or another restaurant. That should be a red flag too, that it's just the same thing that's just being put out. So be very careful about those things, but to some extent look at reviews of companies to give you at least some idea, but don't rely on it exclusively. Do stick with reliable vendors, companies that we all know about. Understand that cheaper is always not better, and so you may think you're saving a couple of dollars when in fact it ends up costing you more. As Carol mentioned at the outset, some things that you might have to be aware of is if you're buying from this particular merchant and you're saving $5 or $10, what's their return policy? And there may be a restocking charge. And all you have to do is get the wrong size shoes in, or the clothes don't fit right, or it wasn't something that you thought you were getting something else, but you weren't getting that, and so you want to return it, and you return it, and you find out that $5 or $10 you've saved, you've now lost because there's a restocking fee of 20% or whatever. So understand what you're getting yourself into when making these particular purchases. Be wary of online auction sites where you have to bid for particular items. Understand that the online auction sites are really the auction house. They're intermediaries. They're allowing sellers to come in and then buyers bid on those particular items. They may not have control over the seller, him or herself, or itself. And so they're only the intermediary. You may want to use an escrow service where the money can go to a third party and the money is not handed over to the seller until you're assured that you've received the item that you got, that you ordered. You want to make sure that when you are both on a retail site where you're just buying something or on an auction site, that you keep copies of the description of the item that is being offered for sale or offered for auction. So that if you end up not getting what it was that was being offered, that you will have a record of what it was that you were bidding on or purchasing. That way the dispute is a lot less when you say, hey, here is the thing. It said it had this widget or that widget, and the item that was sent to me does not have that. Will be helpful as well. Again, know what the return policy is, whatever you're buying something. And as I alluded to a little bit earlier, make sure that you use a credit card when you purchase the item. I advocate that you have a credit card with a very low balance that you can use, that you use just for your internet purchases. That way, if you have a credit card that may have a $500 balance on it, that if something should happen and the information gets stolen, that the credit limit is only $500. That protects you and protects the credit card company, that if purchases are fraudulently made, that's up to a limit of only $500, and then it can be cut off. If you use your credit card that has a $20,000 credit limit on it, and somebody gets their hands on that, you can imagine the kind of damage that they can do and the hassles that you will then have in trying to spin this thing off. Let's look at the reverse side of it. Let's not talk about buying things. Let's talk about selling things. There are people who are out there selling items on the internet, which again has created a cottage industry, created small businesses that people may have always wanted to start their own business, and they decided that they want to sell the things online, and maybe in addition to the small shop that they may have. You have to be very careful about your use as even a seller. There are sites out there, notably one being Craigslist, that, and there are many others, but I just use Craigslist as an example, that people go on to sell their things, rent their apartments, and those sorts of things. They have to be very careful about. There are a lot of scam artists that are lurking on these types of sites. From the seller's perspective, you want to sell something, you have to be very careful about who it is that is buying from you. And I recommend to people that if you are going to sell something, I recommend that you make a condition of the sale that the person who is buying it has to come and pick the item up from you. Because we're seeing that people are posting their kitchen table they want to sell on Craigslist. And they'll get contacted by somebody who's way far away and say, well, we'll send you the money and we'll have somebody come and pick it up. Or we want you to ship it to us. And invariably what happens with those is that we get into what I've talked about many times here at Cornell Cooperative Extension, the fake check scheme, where they send you a check, usually for more money than what the table is for, tells you to go down to the bank, deposit the check, and then wire them the difference for the extra money. And that they'll make arrangements to have somebody come and pick up the table, or they'll have you take enough money so that you can pay for the shipping charges for this particular table. And usually the check bounces, but in the meantime you've already wired out cash for the difference, and all of a sudden you're stuck because the check actually bounced. It happens all the time. I can almost guarantee you that if you offer for something on Craigslist or another site to have somebody come and to have somebody buy something from you, you are going to receive email inquiries from a scam artist. Now, you may also get legitimate inquiries as well, but you're going to get at least one illegitimate one. That includes those of you that may try to sell something in the classified section of the newspaper, because now, in this day and age with internet, and everybody's comfortable with the internet, and the newspapers are also using the internet, and they're posting their classified ads online, and the same thing happens, is that you get contacted by someone. So be very careful about that. You're going to go a long way toward protecting yourself as a seller if you insist that you will only give it to a person who comes to your house to pick the item up, and that those people are local. It's a very valuable resource, but make sure that you know who that you're dealing with. There are many people that had wonderful transactions on these sites trying to sell things. But be very careful that you should only sell to those that are local. You get these fake checks, and all of a sudden that you're out the money. In addition to that, or you may ship the item out, and then it turns out that the check is bad, and you've now out the money, and you're out your personal property. Flipping it around, those of you that are using Craigslist to buy things, this you're on the purchasing side of it, be very careful, because buyers have been ripped off by these sorts of things. There have been people, I don't know why they do this, but there are some out there that may rent an apartment. It could be in the Ithaca area, because the Ithaca area has a large percentage of rental housing because of the student market that's out there. And there will be maybe international students or students who are coming here from afar, far away, who are younger and very comfortable with the internet, always had it, no problem, who will rent an apartment for the upcoming school year by only going on Craigslist and seeing a listing and then sending money in for the first month's rent and the security deposit. And when they show up here at the end of August in order to start their school year, they find out that the ad that was posted was completely bogus, and that this particular house is not even for rent, and all of a sudden they've lost all their money, and they have no place to live. So people have to be very careful of it. If you are going to be renting something or buying, go see it. Be a good consumer. Go see it. Make sure that you know who you're dealing with, so that when the time comes that you will have rented a place that is truly for rent. Just for your information, how that typically happens is what they'll do is the scam artists will just go on to the multiple listing service, because a lot of times these houses that are rented are really houses that are up for sale, posted online at the multiple listing service. So they just take the picture off of there, then they post the information as a rental on a Craigslist, and people, wow, that looks really nice. They look up, I know what they're thinking, they look up where the location is, how close is it to Cornell or Ithaca. So, oh, it's really close, it looks like it's nice, it looks like a really reasonable rent. They send it in, and all of a sudden it's a problem. So it's great to do your search from there, but be really careful when it comes time to actually do the transactions. Another very important thing with the use of the internet, and I can't stress this enough, people have to be very careful about passwords. Passwords are our link to the internet. It's the thing that gives us access to the internet through our Wi-Fi's at home. It's what gives us access to particular websites, such as our bank. It gives us access to whatever else is out there on the internet that is protected information. It's really important that you do a good job in protecting and developing your passwords that are the key to give us access to make these purchasing decisions. I know recently our office itself received notifications that we have to frequently change our passwords anyway, but we were recently notified that we have to change our passwords and they're putting certain requirements in the password so that that it can make it that much harder to gain access because of the security breaches. We've heard about security breaches going on for years now. It was approximately a year ago at this time of year that the Target breach occurred. I was victimized by the Target breach because my wife and I had purchased something at Target around the Thanksgiving, Christmas purchase season, and we found, luckily we're good consumers, And we look at our credit card bill as soon as it comes in. And our credit card bill came in, and there was an $1,800 purchase on our credit card. And so I contacted my the credit card company immediately, the bank. And we went through my credit card and discovered that this was a purchase that was made at an online outfit for $1,800. And it related back to the breach that occurred at Target. And it made sense because we had been at Target. But there have been breaches at many other retailers. We hear, there doesn't seem to be a big box retailer that wasn't hit in some fashion. I mean, you hear about banks like Chase and Citi and Best Buy and Home Depot and Target, so many of them that are out there. And so we have to be really careful. One way that can help protect us, in addition to the retailers trying to get caught up to speed and do a good job in trying to protect their stuff. I know that the talk is now finally working toward, but it'll take some time, to where there's going to start having chips, computer chips embedded into our credit cards. That's going to make it harder for the scam artists to be able to use our credit cards. I know that I teach a class at Binghamton University, and I have a number of international students in my class. And because they're international, they have credit cards. And Europe and Asia has become much better in getting out the credit cards, and a lot of them do have it. And one of them in class one day, when we were talking about identity theft and stuff, pulled out his credit card for us to all see. And he had a credit card that had a little chip embedded into it. And we're in the process of starting to do that. But in using the internet and having passwords and those sorts of things, there's certain rules of thumb that are very good that can assist you. Passwords are a very difficult thing, but it is the link in many instances that allows people access to our personal information or gets into our networks at our businesses that we're at and at retailers. Because when you think about it, all this internet stuff is all tech and algorithms and computers generating things. But the one link to get us on that internet highway is something that involves human fallibility. We as humans pick our passwords. We control our passwords. And being human, we make mistakes sometimes with these things, and then that opens the door for people to have access. Here are some things that we have to consider with our passwords. We should not be using any password that has something related to us, that somebody can get their hands on or somebody can figure out. Don't use your password as your name. People know your name. Don't use your street address. Don't use your telephone number. Don't use your Social Security number as these PINs and passwords. You must do a better job of doing it. Also, and I know this is a very difficult thing for people to grasp and how difficult it is to implement, but you really need to use different passwords and PINs for every different thing that you do. And I know people roll their eyes up in their head. I do myself, to say, oh my gosh, how can we possibly remember all of these PINs and passwords? But we have to, because if we use the same password, one, over and over again, and two, meaning not change it, and two, using it on repeated sites, then you're just asking for trouble, because once somebody has that password, they have the key to many different doors. So we really have to do a good job of keeping them separate. So I had a recent article that was in the newspaper about 7 ways to create better, stronger internet passwords. And they are all very good words of advice. One is, make your password long. The longer it is, the harder it is for somebody to crack it. I tell people that I have Wi-Fi at my house, and we had, when Time Warner installed it and everything. And they installed it, and nobody was around, and they just came in and did it. And this was several years ago. And they left us, they put a password on it, which is a good idea, to have a password on your Wi-Fi network. Because otherwise, anybody who's within the Wi-Fi zone can get access to your your Wi-Fi. And when they put it on, I looked at it and I said, oh my goodness. And I've been telling you, it's got to be 25 numbers long. And so my kids flipped out when they looked at it. Dad, how are we going to have access to this thing when I have this huge long password that's associated with it? But I dare you to come to my house and try to crack my password, because it's got to be virtually impossible. It is so long. And when somebody comes to our house and asks for access to our Wi-Fi network and we give them to them, I have to give them a piece of paper that has this whole huge long line number. And they look at me and I'll say, well, nobody can get into it this way. But that's important. Is the longer it is, the more difficult it is. So it's recommended that you use a minimum of 8 characters, but 14 to 25 are even better. Use a combination of letters, numbers, upper and lower case, and symbols, such as exclamation points or the @ sign or whatever, as part of your password. The more you intermix all of those things, the harder it is for somebody to hack in it. Because a lowercase a is completely different than an uppercase A in the cyber world. It's like two different unrelated things. And the @ sign, which looks like an A, but has a partial circle around it, is a completely different thing from all of that as well. So using combinations of letters, numbers, uppers, and lower cases are and symbols are better. And in fact, you should also make it so that you split those things up. Don't have a string of numbers, then a string of letters, and then a string of symbols. Intermix them together with upper and lower cases, and you have a much stronger password. For example, having such things as, I'll use an example. The easy one is password 43. So word password 43. Well, you've got letters and numbers, but they're not separated. It's much better to have password as capital P, small a, capital S, small s, capital W, small o, that sort of thing. Alternate that. Then maybe have an exclamation point and then 43. Or you put pass 43 word. You mix things up. It's even better to have P4A with another number or symbol. The more that you mix that up, the better you're going to be. Also, avoid words that are in the dictionary, even if you do add numbers and symbols. There are algorithms for scam artists that can flip through a dictionary going through a password in fractions of seconds. It's just the cyber world, everything is sped up. So if you use common words that may show up in a dictionary, those can be picked up. Same thing is, a lot of people don't realize this, but I saw a study once where it was some ungodly number. 60% of people use for pins and passwords 1, 2, 3, 4. Sequential numbers. If that's you, if you're part of that 60%, immediately go and change your passwords and your pins. That is very dangerous. Or 0000. Use something different and mix things up. That makes it a lot harder. So don't use sequential numbers. Substitute characters. Now, I know we talked about the fact that we don't want to use passwords that can be picked up by a dictionary or that can be associated with us. But maybe you can do something that we can still remember what the password is, but it throws it off a little bit. For example, using the letter O in place of a zero, or using the dollar sign in place of an S, or using the @ sign in place of an A. Those sorts of things that you can add that still you can remember your password, but you have other things that you can throw in there that is going to throw it off. Avoid easy to guess words, even if they aren't in the dictionary. And never reuse passwords on other accounts. We talked about that. I know it's difficult to try and remember all these different passwords that are out there. But at the very least, those that are crucial to your finances, say your bank, that password or PIN should be completely separate from anything else that you might use. I also suggest that the password that gives you access to your email account should be completely separate from what your banking account is and what it is for anything else. So maybe you have a password to get into, look at a particular website, to look at it. Well, maybe you can use that same password, although I don't recommend it. Maybe that you can use that in common with something else where you're not going to be as vulnerable as you might be. You should keep all your financial ones separate. If you have 2 bank accounts, you should have 2 separate passwords for those. Don't use the same password, because then it's crazy that once somebody has access to one bank, they also then have access to another bank. If we do that, we go a long way toward protecting our use of the internet and access to our particular accounts. Another thing that we have to do is we have to make sure that we stay safe online. And that is not only just our purchasing decisions that we have online, but many of us are creating a social presence online. I was just reading an article last night in a recent Time magazine about Mark Zuckerberg, and for those of you who don't know him, he is the one that created Facebook. And the article was talking about how Facebook is now advancing to the point where they are trying to get everybody on the internet. So there are, I can't remember the statistics, I don't know if 2/3 of us have the ability to access the internet. But there's 1/3 of the world that has no internet access because it might be in the Sahara Desert or someplace like that. Well, there are various entities, the Facebook being one of them, but also Google and things, that are trying to provide access to everyone throughout the world. And it's talking about the technology of maybe putting drones up that are going to have access to internet, or balloons that are out there. So they're trying to not only expand, with Facebook, expand people's use of Facebook, but also expand the number of people that are using the internet who can then use Facebook. So it's just expanding like crazy. We're all starting to get this social presence. Facebook being one of the big ones, but there's LinkedIn for professional people. There is Twitter now, and all these other things that are out there, Instagram and Pinterest and those sorts of things that are out there, where we're letting the whole world know all about us. Well, in addition to letting the world know about us, scam artists and others, people are lurking out there who are finding out information about us and our children. So we have to be very careful about the social networking. It's a great way for people to communicate. It's unbelievable the kind of communication that people have. I still am astounded by Facebook. I am on Facebook, but I don't post very often at all. Every once in a while, I'll throw a picture out there or something. But I really don't. I'm really not on there that often. But I do see what other people post. Those of you who've heard me talk about this in prior years since I've been coming out here, I've been out here. I think I started here before Facebook was really in vogue, or the internet itself. But I have it and I use it. And when I first started coming and talking about this sort of thing, I had like 4 friends. I have a few more than that now, but the things I find interesting are some of the postings of people that I know. But more importantly, the algorithms within Facebook are such that it tells me, hey, do you know this person or do you know that person? And I am astounded each time I look at, and I say to myself, how did they know that I would know this particular person? I find that astounding. There was somebody that I had met a year or so ago, randomly. It happened to be a retired professional hockey player that I just happened to meet at random one day, based on certain circumstances, who I wouldn't have otherwise known. He was a French Canadian who lived in Canada. It just happened to be that he was in our area for a particular reason. And we had a very enjoyable conversation, and that was the only day I had ever met him. I don't know how it happened, but one day in the last few weeks, I got a notification from Facebook. It wasn't from this particular person. It was from Facebook saying, do you know this person? And I said to myself, how the heck would they know that? And the only thing I can think of that Facebook, with all of its extensive algorithms and things, was able to piece together that I was in the same location that this former retired hockey player was on a particular date. And it somehow correlated the fact that maybe we would have met. It just boggles my mind. So there's all this social stuff that's out there, and that people are becoming aware of this information. And we have to be very careful about who is getting this information. Now, my story, it was pretty innocuous. He was a really cool guy. I really enjoyed our conversation and stuff, and don't have any problem if Facebook was notifying him, hey, do you know me? But there may be instances where there's people I don't want to know these sorts of things. So, although a great way to communicate, we have to be very careful. Know who you're dealing with. Know who it is that are sending you contact information. There are people out there that just want to be able to accumulate as many contacts and friends as possible. But do you really want those people to have your personal information? We have to be really careful, and we have to protect our young people, our children who are out there. Who are they contacting? Who are they conversing with? Again, the use of the internet is a wonderful thing. I mean, how great a thing is it for our students, our young students, grammar school students, elementary school students, who are, back in my day, being a dinosaur that I am, one of the cool things that we did in grade school was pen pals, where you got to send a letter to somebody in Mexico, another kid who was your age. Now they're talking with them face to face with these FaceTimes on their phones or through the internet and things like that, talking about what their culture's like, what do they eat, how do they learn in school. These are really wonderful educational things, but taken to an extreme can be very, very dangerous. So we need to know as parents who our children are dealing with, who they're talking with, who they're giving out personal information to, so that we can keep them protected and safe. The internet is a great thing, whether you're using it for purchases, or whether you're using it for social interaction, or whether you're using it to look up things. I don't have to leave my desk now to get information that I used to have to go traipse over to the library to get. It's great, but we have to be really careful. And if we do remain careful, it's going to prove to be just a great, great thing for us. But if we do protect ourselves and remain safe, the internet is a wonderful thing. If someone has a problem with the use of the internet, whether they're purchasing an item they didn't get or might be victimized by fraud, they can feel free to contact my office, the New York State Attorney General's office. Our telephone number, for those of you in Ithaca who don't want to have a long-distance call, it's 1-800-771-7755. Otherwise, you look up our local number in Binghamton. That 800 number will ring in Binghamton. We have a consumer representative on staff as well as student interns who take telephone calls from consumers all day long and can send you complaint forms. Our complaint forms are also available online at www.ag.ny.gov. You can go on there and you can print off a complaint form off the computer, fill it out and send it into our office in Binghamton, and we'd be glad to try and mediate your consumer complaint that you may have. Or otherwise, Carol will give you information shortly about the helpline that they have here at Cornell Cooperative Extension to provide you with information as well. We also hope that someday that you will come down and visit us here at Cornell Cooperative Extension. And again, Carol will fill you in on dates and times when we're here. And other than that, I'll pass it back over to Carol. Thanks.
Thank you, Mike, so much for helping us better understand the complexities of going online and how we as consumers can protect ourselves. And as we know now, the best way to do that is to be aware and to limit our exposure, and also to have strong and varied passwords. And thank you all for joining us today. I hope that this has helped shed some light on the complexities and of using the internet and how to protect yourself online also. If you'd like more information, as Mike said, on this or other consumer topics, please feel free to contact the Cornell Cooperative Extension Consumer Helpline at 607-272-2292. We have staff and volunteers here who can help you explore your options and provide research-based information for consumers to answer their questions. As Mike said, if you'd like to join us live next time or any month that we are here, our consumer issues programs are held on the second Thursday of each month at 11 a.m. at Cornell Cooperative Extension, located at 615 Willow Avenue in Ithaca. These programs are free. They're open to the public. No registration is required. Just come on down and join us, and you will be able to ask questions of Mike, and I think it'll be very enjoyable. And I wanted to let you know that next month we will be exploring consumer credit issues, so we hope you will join us then. Thank you.